Support for this program is provided by
The Women's Hospital delivers comprehensive health care to women and infants through inpatient and outpatient obstetrical, gynecologic, and education programs. The Women's Hospital, only at Deaconess.
additional support provided by Girling Law and Toyota Indiana.
August 18th, 2016, we adopted our son Skylar through foster care, and he grew in our hearts and grew in his mommy's tummy, and we're forever grateful for his mommy because she gave us a great gift in life, and looking forward to many more years together.
My name is Emily Fleetwood, and I was adopted from the hospital by my mom, Robin, and my dad, Rick, when I was 6 days old. So they've been in my family my whole life, and that's how I identify that they are my parents. I think the coolest thing about our family is that no one believes I'm adopted because I look like both of my parents, my mom and my dad.
I'm Sue Meyer. I'm here with my son, Wilson Hall. He was the last of our 3 children who were adopted. Will's now 26. He's the funny one, the one who's always been stubborn and liberal, and probably the one who's most like me. He's been a delight, and I'm just proud that he's been part of my life.
We're Todd and Christina Burnett, and we adopted Jonas and Ellie from Haiti. When people see our family, they say that we are a huge blessing to our children that we adopted, but the reality is they have blessed us immeasurably by being a part of our family.
Hi, I'm Cammie, and my husband and I adopted our son Camden. We met him when he was 3 hours old, and he is just a ray of sunshine in our lives. And we adopted our daughter Kenna. We met her when she was 3 days old, and she completed our family, and they have made our dreams come true.
My husband Scott and I have one biological son, Roman, and decided to foster to adopt. And through that program, we have Rourke and Randa. So now we have a family of 5, and it's been an amazing journey so far.
So often we hear of these stories of these families that adopt children and babies, and they're these beautiful stories, and they're so encouraging and happy. But on the other side of those stories, there's a birth mother that made the decision to place her baby or child up for adoption, and we so rarely hear her story. So we're giving both women a space to tell their stories. So you're gonna meet Bree. She was 17 when she placed her baby for adoption. And we have Amanda, the adoptive mother. And the beauty that runs through this story, and the love and the compassion and the grace that you're going to see is so inspiring.
We started dating when I was a junior, and dated until the spring semester of my senior year. We met because of drama and choir, and we'd known each other a long time before that, but got closer during one of the musicals that we were doing. And so then we started dating, and then that's what led to Eden, I guess. Initially, I guess the plan was that we were gonna stay together and make it work somehow. We were going to tell our parents together. But when he got home, his dad, I guess, sensed that something was off. And so he kind of dug it out of him, I guess. And they called and said they were coming over to our house right then. And it was, I want to say, maybe 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, great. So they're going to show up on my doorstep and my parents have no clue what's going on. So I had to go and tell my mom, I don't feel good. And she was like, I know you don't feel good. And I'm like, no, I really don't feel good. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant. And they came over and it was not pretty. My parents, while they were floored, were supportive, and basically said, we'll do what we can. They brought up like the realities of it's going to be difficult. And so they had discussed options of, we really think it could be better if you find a family. Everybody kind of threw out, you guys aren't ready. And initially I was very resistive to that. Because you just don't grow up thinking, I'm going to have a baby and I'm going to place this baby with somebody else. My parents had me go tell my grandparents the very next day so that they weren't finding out from other people, which was difficult. And one of my grandmas also brought up that she felt like adoption would be a good idea. But I still wasn't open to it until I had that conversation with the nurse practitioner. And she kind of laid out, there's other ways to have an adoption other than just not knowing anything about if your baby's okay. Because I just could not imagine giving my baby to a social worker or a stranger and that being it.
He was dating my roommate in college, and we were friends. The two of them broke up, and she actually thought it would be a good idea if we gave it a go. So
Really?
He always says God led him to the right room. He just picked the wrong girl at first. We were engaged after 3 months, and we were married in less than a year. And this year is our 20th anniversary. So that's, when people say, oh, they'll never make it or they won't last, in your face. About the second year we were married, we started trying to have children. And things weren't really happening. Of course, the doctors won't usually look at anything until you've been trying for a year unsuccessfully. We started doing some testing and weren't really sure at that point why we weren't getting pregnant. There's a lot of ups and downs with that. Every month there's highs and lows, Is this going to be the time? I'm so confident that it's going to be the time, and then it's not the time. You go through charting your temperature and testing your hormones and just a roller coaster of emotions. I developed some anxiety through that and was having panic attacks. I'm one that kind of likes to be in control, and I don't like that sense of not being in control, so I struggled with that for a while. They started testing hormones at that point. My levels were a little bit off, but not a lot, not something that should have kept me from getting pregnant. We found out that I was not the issue, that John was unable to have children. What further complicated it is that I also developed endometriosis at that time. So even if we were able to conceive, whether it was IVF or insemination, any type of thing like that, every time that I had an issue with endometriosis, my chances went down about 33% of being able to conceive. After talking to the doctors and having the first laser surgery for that, we just made the decision that if we were going to pursue this, that we were going to do it through adoption.
So if you walk out into the community, into your place of work or in your social friend network, and you say, we're adopting a baby, you'd get hundreds of likes and everybody would applaud you and say, wonderful, that's so great. But if you walk into your social network of friends or into your place of work and you say, I'm placing my baby for adoption, the response is, why? Or, well, I'll adopt your baby, as if, you're just anybody, you're just looking for somebody, a place for your baby to lay their head. And people mean it, they don't mean it badly, they just don't understand the nature of adoption. So yeah, women who say, I'm not ready to be a mom. I'm too young, I'm not financially prepared, maybe I don't feel supported by the baby's father, maybe I suffered a terrible tragedy like rape or sexual assault, and I'm not prepared to raise a child that may look like my perpetrator. I mean, the reasons are endless, various, why people choose adoption. But in our society, we don't really embrace those women and say, we're proud of you for making a decision that is very wonderful. And this is, we can recognize that this is difficult, but you are doing a good thing for somebody who may not be able to achieve pregnancy on their own. So on the same night, you can have a mom, saying her prayers to God, please, God, more than anything, I want to be a mom, and I don't know why you won't allow me that possibility. And on the other end of town, you could have a young woman praying, oh my God, I'm pregnant, I don't know what to do. And it's amazing how when those women come together, we can all celebrate the life of this child, and that is a beautiful thing.
I just felt at a complete loss on what I should do. I wanted it to be the right decision. There was a lot of fear. 17 and pregnant, you don't really know what to expect. I didn't have that other person there to support you and want to figure out the best plan on how to bring a child into this world. And when I came across those 3 profiles, I prayed a lot after I'd contacted them, almost immediately with getting a response from Amanda. It just began to feel right. We were very odd. Usually people pick an adoption company and then look at the profiles that they're given. But because I was doing research and they had profiles listed online, I contacted the families by email before contacting the company. And so the company always joked about that they were always playing catch up because Amanda and I would talk all the time. And so it was almost like we were filling them in on, here's what we want, make this happen. I think I talked to them for probably 3 or 4 weeks. And then the adoption company contacted me and were like, hey, we're here talking with one of our couples. The relationship was always between us before it was with guidance from somebody else.
I think both parties have to be comfortable with openness. And this is what I caution adoptive families. Just decide on your own, like how open do you want to be? Because openness is on a continuum. And openness might mean one thing to one person and something entirely different to someone else. So first of all, adoptive families have to know that they are comfortable with open adoption. And then the birth mom also has to feel comfortable as well. When we have healthy individuals seeking healthy relationships, being very respectful of one another, that's the perfect recipe for openness in adoption.
I don't remember the name of the article, but John and I read an article about how much healthier open adoption is for the child. Because all of those questions that a child is going to go through being adopted, why didn't they want me? Didn't they love me? Was I a mistake? All of those questions can be answered with that ongoing relationship. So we met in the agency. It was nerve-wracking. I was a mess. I think I had a panic attack that morning. John was trying to calm me down. It's going to be fine. I was like, how can I ask anyone to give me a child and I can't even control my own emotions? It's just I think I was just overwhelmed with the stress. But I got it together, got dressed, and made it to the office, and we met her. And she was adorable. She had the cutest short curly brown hair. Very nice, polite, kind. And once I met her, I could just tell in speaking to her that this was my friend that I had been talking with and making this bond with. And I knew she was going to be there to stay.
We, I guess, knew it was coming because I had went in the day before for one of my regular exams, and she had went ahead and stripped my membranes, and she was pretty confident that I was going to go ahead and deliver within the next 24 hours or so. So we had called and told them to go ahead and come down. So we'd all hung out the night before, and everybody went to bed. And by midnight, I knew that I was more than likely in labor, but didn't want to bother anybody. So I just stayed awake most of the night and tried to walk around and keep myself comfortable. And by early morning, it was time that I knew I needed to get a meal in so that we could go to the hospital. And I think that's when I got a little nervous. because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was coming, just like any first-time mom. There were lots of people in and out. It's all kind of a blur. There was so much support in the room, though. When it came time, it was very quick. And my mom and dad and Amanda were there. And her being born, and we had agreed beforehand that I would hold her first, and then Amanda would hold her next. She was just so pretty. She was so perfect. In that moment, everything was the way it was supposed to be. And Amanda held her. And then John came in, and I will never forget that moment. As neat as it was to see Amanda hold her, Amanda handing Eden to John for the first time, there was just so much love in both their eyes. And it felt so complete. Like, that was exactly how it was supposed to be.
She was very gracious in letting me be in for the delivery. Since I would never get to experience that for myself, it was one of the things that I treasure the most from our relationship, because she was looking out for me as much as I was looking out for her. And when it came time and Eden was born, and the doctor was amazing, I started off holding Bree's hand, and as Eden was coming down, the doctor called me around. She's like, look, watch your child being born. When it got to that point and Eden was out, and they placed her on Bree's chest, and Bree held her for the first time, in that moment, I could not take her. In that moment, I could not physically hold her. Because this was my friend. This was someone that I had grown to love. And I was going to cause her tremendous pain. So I was overwhelmed by that. I didn't let on. I tried not to anyway. But I needed my husband in that moment, who was out in the hall. So I gave her and her parents a moment. And I went out to let John know that she was here, she was born, she was healthy. And it just kind of gave me a minute to compose myself. But that split second, I couldn't take her from her arms. John comes in behind the curtain, and he sees her as they're cleaning her off and weighing her and doing her footprints. And once they get her all bundled up, that's when I held her for the first time. And I don't know how to express it other than it was just a rush of love. I've never felt anything like it. This child did not come out of me. It did not grow inside me. But there was no doubt that that was my child.
This is why I tell adoptive moms, you are the mother. You are there morning, noon, and night. You are there to nurture boo-boos, to make lunch, to show up at school parties, to host the birthday party, to run kids to and from football practice or basketball or soccer or wherever you're doing. You're doing the laundry, you're cleaning the house. I mean, the list goes on and on. You are doing all the mom activities. So it is normal when kids get disgruntled with their moms. That's normal behavior. We have to sometimes be not so quick to say, uh-oh, this is my child rejecting me and clinging to their birth parent. Because some adoptive families feel that, some adoptive parents feel that even when birth mom isn't visiting or isn't in the picture, just the image of her, the idea of her can become perfect in the mind of the child. And so that even that can be intimidating to adoptive parents. But just remembering you are doing all of the mom activities, and it is solidifying your role as the mom. When your child grows up and they're 25 years old, they're going to call you mom because you did all the mom jobs. And that's what your child's birth mom asked you to do. So you're fulfilling her request in a beautiful way, and your child will grow up and they will recognize it and embrace it for sure.
And then came time for the social worker to come into the hospital for signing the papers.
What day was that? Day 1, day 2?
48 hours later. It was very, very emotional. We could hear her in there crying in the room with the social worker and her mother. And her father was out in the hallway with us. We could just hear the sorrow and the anguish of giving up this child that she had carried. And of course me, I'm a crybaby, so I was in the hallway crying. And I'll never forget, her father just came over and wrapped his arms around me and said, "It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." And it's things like that that make our situation a little bit different, is that they were our support system too. They were so close to the situation that they adopted us as their family before we adopted Eden.
It was very hard when I signed the papers. There were tears. It was the way it was written. It wasn't me changing my mind. The paperwork is written exactly like it is for any person that has rights terminated. I mean, it makes you feel like you're cutting off a limb almost. And I'd made a choice that I'd chosen to have a family for her. I knew she was going to be taken care of and safe and loved, but that's not how the paperwork makes you feel. It uses words like abandon, which is not what I wanted for her. So I didn't change my mind during that time, but it was a very hard thing to do and sign those words when that's not how I felt about what I was doing. I think it's harder as we've all got older because we've all got very busy lives. But we still see each other several times a year. For the past 4 years or so, she has always wanted to come down and stay for the summer some. So she's always come and stayed for a few days or a week. And it's always interesting having an extra child in the house that is not usually here with you. Within the first 24 hours, her and her brothers are always fighting exactly like they live together here full time. They don't waste any time going to be regular old siblings. And I know she always looks forward to going home because they annoy her just like regular brothers do.
We've stayed in their homes. They stay in our homes. They know your favorite meal when you come to their house. Get Christmas presents back and forth. Inside jokes that you would have with your aunt and uncle or your grandparents, you know. So it's been a whirlwind of emotions, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. And part of the reason that we decided not to do it again is because we don't think we would ever get the situation that we have now. And that was important to us. I didn't want to have a second child and then one be resentful of the other for not having that same relationship.
There's no such thing as a perfect parent, but they are perfect parents for her. I have never seen such love and care and devotion. They have always brought themselves down to her level on what she needs. They've supported her along the way. They do more for her than you could ever hope and imagine for. Her mom is so fun. Her mom is able to connect with her on a level that you only hope you could connect with your daughter on. And I love she has that. John will always and forever strike me as the person that would take out any guy that he needs to protect his daughter. That is always going to be his baby girl and has been from day one. She definitely has a very special place in Daddy's heart. There is nothing that I would change about the two of them and what they give to her.
We do love each other. To this day, she's one of my closest friends. Somebody that I can call if I just need to vent or yell or my kid's driving me crazy, which is probably odd in some adoption situations for an adoptive mom to call a birth mom and say, your kid is about to get locked in her room, or your kid's driving me crazy. This is definitely nature versus nurture, and this is yours. We laugh all the time about it. We'll look and we'll compare her brothers and how they act. I was like, see, I told you this was your fault. This isn't me, this is you. We just have that relationship. We love each other, we're like sisters.
Open adoption to me we have the most perfect situation that you could make out of what it is. As a birth parent, I always miss her. There's so many moments that she's not here for that you wish she was. For our situation, though, there is not a doubt in my mind that most people are not as lucky as what we are. And it's not just because they let me see her, it's because we all mesh together and it all works for us. And I think that's what was kind of difficult about those first couple of years. You're still getting to know each other. It's almost like one of those in-law situations on you're kind of still testing the waters and you don't want to tick anybody off, but you need to find your way in what that new family unit is. And now that we have, it is something that's just so uniquely ours.
There's a stigma attached to the birth mother. And I don't know if that's because we just don't hear her story or if people associate that with a selfish decision. But in fact, that we see that there is an immense amount of love for a baby that this woman feels like she can't provide for and care for in a way that she thinks that this baby deserves. And so in fact, it is selfless. But what these women have done for Eden is give her a life that Eden could have never imagined, and none of them could have imagined. Because of the grace and compassion and empathy that they all show each other.
Be true to who you are, especially when you're looking for a birth mother. Because the more honest you can be and the more of yourself that you can show, the more likely you are to get the fit that's right for your family. And the other thing I would say is be mindful of your birth mother. When you're going through that delivery process and being in the hospital and those intense emotional moments, allow the birth mother to have those moments of being a mother to that child. Because ultimately she will thank you for it.
Support for this program is provided by
The Women's Hospital delivers comprehensive health care to women and infants through inpatient and outpatient obstetrical, gynecologic, and education programs. The Women's Hospital, only at Deaconess.